And I'm going to share.
Okay, so let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanessa Castillo-Bell, and I'm with Local First Arizona, here a part of the entrepreneurial support team. Local First Arizona is a statewide nonprofit dedicated to building a resilient economy that works for everyone. By helping them, with local business tools, resources, and connections to grow stronger together. Today's workshop is what every entrepreneur should know about transforming finances into profits. We're so excited to welcome Erica Alexander from Abundant Outcomes, a financial strategist and community leader. Long before there was personal finance gurus on TikTok, Erica was sharing her financial empowerment knowledge and tools. She holds a master's degree in management with an emphasis in financial management, has served as a nonprofit treasurer and strategist, and is an avid volunteer who supports the Unhoused through Project Humanity's service Saturday's team. Please help me in joining and welcoming Erica Alexander.
Well, thank you for such a warm welcome, Vanessa. Please excuse my voice. Vanessa knows that I have been feverishly fighting a cold for over a week now, but I'm at the tail end of it. So I really appreciate you all taking some time out of your day to join us here live. Please, anything that comes to mind, write down your questions. I'll do my best to answer them at the end. If not, you'll have my contact information and you can just reach out to me individually and talk about some of the things that all of us small business owners lament about finances. And you are not alone, which is why I titled this CFO, because most of us plan to be CEOs, but we didn't realize that we were going to have to be the CFOs as well. So let's get started. So we're going to talk about some of the myths versus the reality of becoming business owners. We'll talk about what the data says about how much we do and don't know about finances. We're going to talk about the roles, the four faces of the CFO. And we're going to talk about it's only up from here, because I'm going to leave you with some resources and with my contact information to assist you with any of your financial issues going forward. So I'm sure you've heard various myths about the entrepreneurial journey, but it is likely to be one of the most challenging experiences of your life. Everything that you thought you knew about yourself and business savvy and your energy in this particular market will be challenged throughout the process. So let's get into some of these myths. Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So the first myth is that you need a lot of money to launch a business. And I think really we have Shark Tank to thank for that, right? And nobody knew what a pitch was, a pitch competition. No one knew what any of that was before Shark Tank. But the reality is millions of micro businesses are bootstrapped. And I'm sure most of you know that bootstrapping means pulling together your own resources, maybe some crowdfunding, maybe some money from your parents, or dipping into some of your reserves for maybe that vacation you had planned, or your new car fund to bootstrap your vision. Oh gosh, a great idea guarantees success, right? Well, the reality is most of us have lived without smartphones, bottled water, doggy daycare, $7 coffee, as my mother likes to call it, power locks and windows on our cars. However, we cannot imagine living without many of them now. So there was a time before we didn't have any of that stuff, and somebody said, you know what we need? We need a phone that is basically, more powerful than that Commodore 64 my parents bought me in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, we need to have, a coffee shop on every block that, with coffee that, costs twice as much as a tank of gas. My grandfather, I know he is rolling over in his grave just at me saying that. But, over a third of our businesses fail because there's no market for the product or service. So we really have to be diligent about making sure that we are building something that the local market desires, or if you have a national company or a company that's online that, a greater market desires. Another myth, you have to have expertise in all aspects of the business to be successful. Now, this is a myth that I'm grateful is not reality, because there are so many free and low investment resources that are available to support entrepreneurs. Vanessa has been of a great assistance to me on the entrepreneurial support team here at Local First. Also, I'm sure many of us have heard about SCORE and SBDC and their mentoring programs. And they can provide you with some consistent support throughout your business evolution and pivots. And hopefully you're also working within your community to establish your own sort of board of advisors as your business evolves. I found that to be very helpful. All right, so what the data says is that we're going to learn a lot about business and we're going to learn a lot about ourselves on the entrepreneurial journey. So we're going to talk about next, why do we feel that we struggle in certain areas of the entrepreneurial journey and how that can impact how effectively we run our businesses. So the data says that 32% of us say that we need to increase our financial literacy, and we feel like that will help us manage our budgets and our business cash flow. And 28% of us lack confidence in our financial knowledge, which makes sense, right? So if almost a third of us say we need more financial literacy, it makes sense that around that same amount lack financial confidence, right? 43% of us, cash flow is a problem. It's very hard to predict when money is going to be going out, when we're going to get our customers to pay. And so we need to have some tools and practices in place to help us balance that more effectively. However, all of these challenges are costing us over $100,000 in lost profit. And frankly, we've sacrificed enough as small business owners. We've sacrificed time away from our family and friends. We've sacrificed money, of course, free time, whatever that is. And I want us to be better empowered so that we don't have to sacrifice this money, because this lost profit should be going into a long-term retirement plan, should be going towards a down payment for a home. All the things that we've made these sacrifices to get, that's where this money should be going toward. So according to GFLEC, I love saying GFLEC because people are like, what is that? So GFLEC is the Global Financial Literacy Education Center. And the data says that they believe that the accurate definition for financial literacy across all demographics is the knowledge and understanding which enables sound financial decision making and effective management of personal finances. So this is talking about personal finances. But of course, what we know about our personal finances is usually how we approach our business finances. And towards the end, we'll talk about how we have translated this definition into a more powerful one for small businesses. But keep that in mind, because knowledge and understanding, sometimes we use those interchangeably, but sometimes we can know something and not understand it and be able to take information about earning, consuming, risk management, and synthesize it into an effective financial management plan for ourselves and for our businesses. And of course, as small business owners, when we talk about our businesses, we're talking about securing our personal finances as well. Oh, well, that went by too quickly. So let's go back. So this here is a chart that outlines the financial literacy metric from 2017 to 2025. Does anybody have any feelings about what they say, about what this data says over this period, 9 years, almost a decade, of where our financial literacy has fallen?
Well, it hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed much. To me, I find it very interesting that it was at its height when we were all locked in the house in 2020. It's like everybody was very tuned in. But what I will tell you, even when it was at its height, I know that there was never a time I could have brought home a 52 um, to my mom in anything, and she would have been satisfied with that. So That financial index score is based on a survey made up of 28 questions, and they're around these 8 financial functional areas: earning, consuming, saving, investing, borrowing, insuring, comprehending risk, which is very tricky, and you basically reliable information sources about personal finances. So, and this is, gosh, my mouse is getting away from me. Really? Okay, maybe I better use the arrow. So basically, what it tells us, this is the chart from when they first started doing the index to this year. What we know the most about borrowing. That tells you a lot, right? So we start out with borrowing, then we get down to saving, but at the very end is comprehending risk, which I find very interesting because part of borrowing is being able to know what risks you are taking upon in the borrowing contract and whatever contract you have with your lender. So basically, this says that most of us are struggling with our business finances because we don't really have the education around personal finance that we need to have to feel powerful over managing our personal finance and then taking that information and transferring it to our business. So, CFO, no, because most of us decided that we wanted to be in business and out there in the community telling people about what our offers are because we saw an area in the marketplace that really could use our help. We got excited about our products and our services. We're out here networking. We're trying to get our information to the people who we think we can impact most. But then the back end of that is, oh gosh, I have to pull together this invoice. How do I get them to pay? And then once the money comes in, what do I allocate towards marketing? What do I allocate towards my website? What do I allocate towards my transportation budget? All of these things that really nobody tells you about as a business owner. I know at least no one told me about. So, most of us signed up to be CEOs, but not CFOs. And this is what the CFOs that I imagine used to look like in the past. They had whole departments to support invoicing, accounts payable, accounts receivable, expense reimbursements, all of that really fun, tedious stuff. But this is what a lot of us look like. We're trying to manage a family, we're trying to get dinner on the table, and then we're pouring over our computer and receipts, trying to keep on top of when our taxes are due and things of that nature. So, what I love to ask small business owners is, who is your CFO? And I usually get a blank stare when I ask them that. They're like, and so the next question is, well, okay, if you don't have a CFO, that usually means you are the CFO. And do you know what CFOs do? So the high level view is that CFOs track cash flow. They do long term and short term financial planning, trying to get us through the next season and through the next year. They analyze the company's financial strengths and weaknesses. And when needed, they make adjustments and propose new ways of doing things. So the consulting firm Deloitte, some of you may have heard of them, large consulting firm in all aspects of business. They do a lot of work with big banks and financial services. And a long time ago, they developed this model of 4 roles that CFOs play in business. And I find it very helpful. Now, keep in mind, this model is based on large corporations, but I have adjusted it just for us so that we know those tasks that we need to stay on top of to make sure managing our business finances doesn't get out of control and doesn't eat up a lot of our time, frankly. So one of those roles is a steward, and it's funny because a lot of people have never even heard of this word before. And I remember when this is what we refer to flight attendants um, as stewards and stewardesses. But the steward is the risk manager. That's the risk management hat that you're wearing. So when you're working as a steward for your company, you're trying to protect the vital assets. making sure that you're in compliance with all financial regulations, keeping those books correct so that you can pay the right amount of taxes. And of course, communicating the value and the risk to any investors that you may have, or even partners in some cases. So this looks like implementing controls to ensure that only certain people have access to your need to know data, keeping your software licenses up to date, keeping those passwords secure, making sure that you are reconciling your financial statements against what maybe your accounting software says, or what your bank ledger says. These are the things that we need to do just to make sure that we are being compliant with all legislation and legalities. So for us, this looks like making sure that you have separate accounts for your business and personal finances. That's, personal finances. That's fundamental. Investing in a simple bookkeeping tool. If you find that you are not in love with using Excel to track everything, you might invest in a simple bookkeeping tool. But also make sure that whatever you invest in is the right cause for the size of your business. Sometimes I've worked with some small businesses and coaching them and find out they're spending way too much money to maintain these sorts of tools. Knowing your tax deadlines and making sure they're added to your calendar. And let's go out here and do some stuff, proactively. Contract templates, like having a template to maybe um, invest to partner with a small business, or to sell your products or services at a local farmers market. Whatever that legalese looks like, go out there, find a template, customize it, and make it work for you. Just so that you'll have that at the ready. So that's not something that's slowing you down when you get the next opportunity. The second role is an operator. CFOs have to stay on top of cash. We're trying to always be efficient and effective because we're small and we don't have a lot of resources, right? So, using the right apps, as I mentioned just a moment ago, make sure that your invoicing and payment apps work well for you, not too cumbersome, doesn't not a big learning curve, especially if you ever need to teach it to someone else. Track your receipts. I know that this gets tricky, but staying on top of your receipts, collecting them monthly at least. I mean, monthly, weekly would be great. I say monthly. Schedule a time to review all that stuff. Make sure that you're logging them. Use your phone. We always have our phone. It's a lot easier to use your phone. What I use sometimes is I'll just go into my email and I'll make a draft message and record whatever expenses are for that day, and just keep a log of that, or for that month. And then at the end of the month, I'll just have a draft email message that says November 2025, and it'll have all of my expenses and events. And then I'll go back and compute the mileage for those events and things of that nature. And of course, take that information, any of your expense and payment information, and reconcile it against your bank records monthly. Role number 3, strategist, right? So just talked about being an operator, that's the day to day. But to be a strategist, you always have to think long term. What do I want my business to be looking like next year, this time? In 5 years, what products or services do I have right now? And how can I grow them and mature them into products and services for a larger organization, or an organization in a different industry? And a lot of this comes with, we have to set goals. So set targets for your revenue and expense. How much should I be expending on marketing if I want to reach certain industries, or if I want to reach people in a certain socioeconomic class? Always know what your break even point is. That lets you know the minimum business you have to do to make your business viable, to make it worth everything that you're sacrificing, right? And of course, lower cost investments. Back to what I was talking about, apps. You want something that's going to free up your time. The goal isn't to spend all of your time working on this business. At some point, we want the business to be self sustainable, or sustainable in a way where it's not eating up your 9 to 5 and your 6 to 10. You need to have some breathing room. You need to be able to recharge and have some energy to invest in the next thing for your business. And the very last role is catalyst. So, catalysts are those people or those things that stimulate and drive change within our enterprise. And really, to be able to do this with the small businesses, you have to track some metrics. I mentioned to earlier expenses, annual revenue. You can see which way they're trending, which way they're heading, which adjustments you think you need to make in terms of maybe investing more time with a particular client to maybe sell them additional services, or maybe reach out to clients in an adjacent industry and let them know how your other clients have been leveraging your services or utilizing your products in the way to grow your business and expand your client base. All of these are the things that catalysts are always thinking about. The next thing, there was the iPod, then the iPhone, and I don't know which iPhone we are on now. But there used to be a time that we did not walk around with phones on us all day, and now most of us cannot imagine a time without our phone. I'm one of the only people that I know who will leave their phone at home and not turn around and go and get it. Some days I leave my phone and I'm like, oh man, it just frees up some mental capacity when I leave it. And so when you are capturing all these metrics, make sure you are capturing all of the metrics that you need to know exactly how much being a small business owner is costing you. Because whatever is costing you should be factored in to your rate. So, making sure that you have adequate money for taxes, your insurance, retirement savings. You should not be foregoing retirement savings to be on your own or to be your own boss. No effective boss is not planning for the future. This is part of being that strategist. A strategist is always looking forward. Of course, all of your fees for QuickBooks, Zoom, whatever other apps you might be using, invest in some professional services, invest in some legal coaching or a legal program, maybe some bookkeeping if that's not your thing, maybe some financial coaching if you would like for someone to help you with your strategy. Software, website, all these things kind of just eat up our money, and sometimes we know we're using our personal debit card, we're spending money here and there, we're not keeping track of it as something that we need to be managing for our business. Also, if you're thinking about any type of loan, you have to factor in the debt servicing costs for that and pay time off, because the very least you could give yourself is 2 weeks without having to worry about the business. All of this stuff needs to be factored in. Mileage, attending conferences, networking events, all this type of stuff should be factored into your costs. So make sure you do not overlook these costs. And so, small business financial wellness, as defined by abundant outcomes, means that you are in control of your cash flow. You have capacity to address operational shifts. And capacity is a code word in business for either capital or expertise. If you get a new opportunity or something, you want to be able to address that and not have money or the lack of expertise keep you from taking advantage of that. Knowing what your mission is, your objectives, your risk and your dependencies, those things that could slow you down or maybe stall your business. Keep those in the front of your mind, and always keep in mind ways that you might mitigate those. And of course, being financially prepared to take advantage of new opportunities. So that could be an operational shift, that could be maybe pivoting to partner with another organization or with another business for a season, for the holidays, or for a conference or something like that. Those things take money, take expertise. Don't let your lack of planning and looking forward keep you from leveraging that. And so I have included some resources on my website. So there's some KPIs, some key performance indicators that will help you track the financial health of your business. And then there's a summary of the CFO roles and the overlooked expenses that I also shared earlier that you can leverage with this QR code. And I will also take this moment to paste the link in the chat for anyone who just wants to click on it. And that wraps up my presentation. Oh, I went the wrong way. So did I speed through that? Yes, I did.
No, that was phenomenal information for all of us. And so we can open it up for questions regarding how to turn your finances into, profitable and business, because we know that without finances, you can't scale. And so I would love to open it up for any questions.
And don't be shy. I'm just grabbing that URL. I see you waving.
Okay.